Productivity metrics in isolation are worthless. Does that work in production? Like, does that work at scale? But I quit playing video games. That was the secret.
This is the Future of the Future show. I am your host, Matthieu McClintock. AI is changing how software gets built, but is it actually making engineering teams more productive or just creating new bottlenecks? In this episode, I am joined by Matthieu McClintock, founder of ChaosMonkey, a company tackling one of the biggest unanswered questions in tech today. How do we measure the real impact of AI on software engineering? From code generation and developer productivity to review cycles, delivery speed, and engineering ROI, Matt helps organizations separate AI hype from measurable outcomes. We will dive into what he's learning from the data, the future of software development, and why his most controversial views on AI might challenge what many leaders believe today. Matt, thank you so much for being here.
Thanks for having me, Matteo. Excited to be here.
Matt, what problem are you personally trying to solve with ChaosMonkey, and why does it matter?
So the problem that we're trying to solve is, I don't think there's any debate that AI adoption is very high. I think the debate is how do you connect that to downstream delivery outcomes? And, in a sentence, it's ChaosMonkey helps you sort of make sense out of the chaos in AI coding and all these coding tools in terms of, okay, you're generating all of this extra code. That's great. Is it improving the SDLC, from A to Z? That's all that really matters.
How does it work in practice?
So the main thing I think is a lot of developer tools are missing sort of the most important layer because they've traditionally focused on the delivery layer. So PRs, commits, merge rates, PR,
Right.
reopen, revert. They're looking once the code has already been submitted. They're not looking at the layer above that. And with AI coding tools becoming so popular, I mean, that's probably an understatement. There's so much work now happening in the layer above before the code even gets to the delivery layer. And I feel like you're missing a huge part of the equation if you don't have access to both. So I think you need a holistic view of sort of your entire SDLC from whatever coding models your devs are using to sort of how is that translating to quality code and features being shipped to production.
How do you do that, and how do you baseline against what was being done before? I guess that a challenge here is many teams don't even have the data of what they were doing before, right?
Yeah,
Productivity,
that's
talking
true.
about productivity in software engineering is hard, right? And many
Yeah.
people just don't know how to pinpoint that. So when you're helping your clients, how do you do that? What metrics will they see in their dashboards, and how they can compare against what was happening before?
So I think the important thing is any productivity metrics in isolation are worthless. So you have to think of sort of multiple data points, right? So AI suggestions accepted are great if the code is actually getting deployed to successful releases. AI suggestion acceptance rate being high is not good with a high reopen rate, a high failure rate, et cetera. And then to take that a step further, like I might be using SWE16, GPT-5 coding. I might be using multiple models, which is great. And you might think, all right, well, this is the best model. Well, then add another dimension on top of that, which is how much is that costing me? So I think there's the harness IDE code editor level, then there's the AI coding model level, and then what part of the SDLC you're working on. And I think I'm looking more, and I think most engineering leaders are looking for, well, that's great if it's generating a lot of, it's closing a lot of tickets and getting a lot of work done. But like, outside of the IDE and the editor, how are we seeing that in terms of shipping quality product to our customers?
What are some of
And
the
so I think you need to look, sorry, no, continue. Well, I was just going to say, so I think you have to look at it in a multi-dimensional aspect. You can't just look at one North Star metric. I think you have to take cost into effect. Some models are free, some are vastly expensive. They're getting more expensive. So you might have a favorite model. Well, if anyone's been paying attention to the news, your favorite model might now cost a lot more. So you might be looking at free models like Kimi and SWE and things like that. So it's really about, it's not just about, what generates the most AI and looks like it knows the best and it looks like it knows what it's doing. You really need to see, what is the variance between how I feel about the coding model and the factual reality of how that's translating to delivery outcomes.
I love it. And you are plugging in a lot of data in terms of QA, in terms of features that have been shipped, but either, are they working? Are they not working? How the customer is perceiving those features. What are the issues that are arising out of that? Do you see with AI that I we are seeing a lot of um, demand for QAs, a lot of demand for, okay, how do we stay on top of all the issues that are popping up right now because we're shipping code so fast, but nobody's really reviewing? Do you see that?
Right.
Are you showing that data to your customers as well?
Yeah, I mean, and it's funny because you look at your in the beginning when everyone was starting to adopt these tools, everyone's like sort of bragging about these like 5,000 line PRs and
Right.
oh, I have a junior developer who built this whole little suite of products over the weekend, and it's like, okay, well, does that work in production? Like, does that work at scale? Like, so, and I get it. Like any new technology, people are going to get really hype and excited about it. But I was actually interviewing engineering leaders on a podcast, and I would ask every single one, sort of, how are you guys measuring ROI and impact? And I was kind of amazed. I don't think I had one person who like remotely had a grasp on that,
That
which
is
is scary. Yeah,
that's the word. That's the word.
yeah,
That's the word
that's
right
scary.
there. Scary is the word. Um, let's go a little bit back on time and your story in technology and how did you end up where you are today?
Yeah, so I was a senior in college, and I was going to work on in finance, and it was 08, 09 economic crisis. Really decided this probably wasn't a good route to go. And I had an idea for a product I wanted to build in college, pitched it to some engineers on campus, found out engineers are excited about their own projects. And so I decided to learn how to code and build it myself. And I was able to sell that product 18 months later. This is before vibe coding. So a lot of time and writing constructor functions from scratch and things like that. Um, but then I joined a web CMS startup, which was a lot of fun. Built that with AWS, and then I joined Process Maker, which is now Process Maker Decisions, which is a really awesome automation startup that was really early to AI. Not trying to plug, but I was the founding member of the marketing team there, so I got to work on sort of the product integration side with partners, but build the marketing department from scratch. And I was there for 6 years. We had a private equity round, and then I joined where I was last, sort of producing and hosting a podcast called Tech Teams Today, which is for engineering leaders, exclusively interviewing engineering leaders. And that's how I came to the conclusion that engineering leaders needed help figuring out the impact and ROI of this AI coding revolution.
I love the
That's the
story.
Cliffs Notes version.
Yeah, I love the story. Um, let me go back a little bit. So you were in finance, okay, subprime crisis hits, you go like, oh no, not this, right? And then you wanted to develop, but you were you self-taught? How did you learn how to code, and how did you manage to put that out and in 18 months not only learn how to do it, but deliver and get it sold?
Ironically, it was very similar to the process I've gone through this past year building ChaosMonkey because I hadn't personally built something from scratch since then, and that was 16 years ago. But the truth is, like, honestly, this is going to sound funny, but I quit playing video games. That was the secret. So I worked full time. I went to college at night. I did the calculations. I spent about 30 hours a week playing video games with my brother. I informed him that I would be quitting the video gaming world. Never played a video game since. That was 16 years ago. And in that time, I taught myself how to code while building the product at the same time. So sort of like building the airplane while you're taking off.
That is amazing. What is your brother doing today?
He is in real estate.
Does he still play video games?
Yes. Yes, he does.
Does
As does
he?
everyone my age that I know.
um, so what do you think about the future of the software engineering profession with everything that you have seen over the years and what's going on today?
Yeah, so I used to ask guests that, and I think the thing that engineering leaders are looking for now is like product thinkers. Engineers that think like a product manager and approach problems like a product manager, which probably sounds super obvious now, but not super obvious a few years ago. And probably not super obvious to a lot of people today.
Yeah.
So I think that you shouldn't think in terms of my elegant, clean code. You should think of it in terms of what is the best solution to the problem I'm trying to solve. And the language or framework or technology isn't really the most important part. It's really the systems thinking and problem solving.
Do you think that your finance background helped you understand this better from the get-go? Um, because for you, it's always been about more about business results than the elegance of the code, or was there some point in time in your career that you even felt for that, like, okay, I want to build the most beautiful code ever?
Wow. So first of all, I wouldn't say I almost became a finance person. I did not become a finance person. But I did study it in college, and I think that does give you a sort of discipline. But I would be clear about this, which is I did not get into the software business to make money. I thought it was the way that I could apply my creativity in a way that could touch every industry. So I wouldn't be stuck in finance or real estate or
Got it.
filmmaking or just one industry. Um, but I think what shaped it more than anything was coming from being in marketing for so long. So, I was head of marketing for a very large software company that was a startup when I joined. And I think a lot of people, would notice that there's a variance between a company, what the company says it does, what the company actually does, and what the company thinks it does. And marketing, I mean, that is the name of the game in marketing. And I was in a lot of those early meetings in 2023 when management teams are trying to figure out, well, what's our AI strategy? Wall Street's asking us, like, let's just make something up for now. Like
Yeah, yeah.
it's more like, overnight, just put AI powered platform on everything. Every company was doing that. And if you listen to all their quarterly calls back then, when it gets to the investor relations time, that's all they're asking about is what's your AI strategy? We just listened to another quarterly call and their strategy sounded pretty good. But the reality is none of those companies really had figured out their AI strategy. And honestly, a lot of them may just be starting to figure it out now.
Where is Chaos Monkey today, and where do you want to take it in the next year or so?
Yeah, so right now we're running pilots with engineering leaders. So if you're an engineering leader and you want to understand how AI coding is impacting your delivery outcomes, you can go to chaosmonkey.dev. A year from now, we're really just trying to understand the market, trying to understand, how engineers are using AI coding tools. Obviously, Claude Code came out in the middle of this project.
Right.
So big feedback was, all right, we need to support terminal and how do we sort of incorporate that into our recommendation engine, which sits on top of all your telemetry and delivery data. So I think, you're going to see a lot around agentic and sort of really like I think cost considerations coming into a bigger and bigger part of the conversation.
Yeah. Question there. I was as cost becomes so important. Who do you think is the person that should be on top of this? Is it Are we talking CTO? Are we talking someone in finance ops? Are we talking a specific right? Because when we talk about like hosting costs like AWS, etc., you have an AWS DevOps. Someone is like looking into that. With AI,
Yeah.
maybe not yet. What are your thoughts there? Is that going to be a role within each team? Do you see a tool like ChaosMonkey helping do that? Is it both?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think it's a collaboration. I think CTOs and engineering leaders, obviously are held accountable to their budgets. I think everyone's heard these news stories about companies spending hundreds of millions of dollars on
Yeah.
tokens. That's frightening. I don't know how that happened. Someone needs to be looking at that. So yeah, that's I think that was a big wake up call for a lot of engineers and a lot of engineering leaders over the past few weeks.
Matt, I have one last and very interesting question to you. What's your most controversial take on AI right now?
I mean, I think I've sort of probably given it throughout the conversation, but I would just say I don't think anybody's right. I don't think anyone's proven they're right. So you have, the AI hype people that are going nuts and talking about how they're 10x, developers, and then you have the people saying, I'm not even using AI coding agents anymore, and I'm going to write everything from scratch, and AI is a bunch of slop. And I think that the truth is that nobody knows what's going on. And I think that was sort of the realization that led me to Chaos Monkey. So that's what we're trying to solve and help people figure out.
I love it. You heard it, Chaos Monkey. If you want to get in touch with Matt, um, Matt, one last time, how do they get in touch with you?
ChaosMonkey.dev. You can also find me on Twitter. My username is Matt R. McLaren. McLaren, like the F1 racing team. And then you can also find me on LinkedIn.
Amazing. Matt, thank you
Thank
for the
you.
conversation. I appreciate you.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it. Have a good one.